Today, we are going to do a second story, perhaps a third if there's time, of the 1977 Yiddish first grade reader for the Satmar sect. And here goes story 2 called Ibergebeten, asked for forgiveness. Es ist Sommer. Jeden Nachmittag spielen die Kinder Schule. Eine von die größeren Kinder ist die Lehrerin und die kleineren Kinder sind die Schülerins. Sie setzen sich alle unter a großen Baum und hören sich zu, gehorsam zu die Lehrerin. So, it's summer and the children, I suppose, have free time and so they are playing school. One of the older children is the teacher and the younger children are the students, and they are listening and rapt to the mock teacher, to the girl who's playing teacher. Hand is Bruches Reihe zusammen die Lehrerin. Alle Kinder haben sich schein herabgesetzt, außer Tilla, welche es zerkriegt mit Tobin, und sie will nicht sitzen mit ihr bei einem Tisch. Lehrerin Brüche hat es bemerkt, aber sie hat sich nicht wissende gemacht und sie hat sich herabgesetzt über nun und angefangen dem tagtäglichen Programm. Zum erst wollen wir machen die freie Zeit Beschäftigungen, also wie jeden Tag, hat Brüche gesagt. So today it's Brüche's turn to play act as teacher. All the students are sitting down nicely except for Tila. Tila doesn't want to sit down because she is fighting with Toby and she doesn't want to sit at one table with Toby. Teacher Bracha noticed all this and is ignoring it and continuing on with the program. She's sitting at the head of the table and she is saying, we're going to start with our free time and how we're going to spend it. Alle Kinder haben Stillerheit mit strahlendigen Peinummer herausgenommen, die Bleien in zusammengearbeitet auf die freie Zeit Beschäftigungen. Wenn alle Kinder haben schon geendigt, hat Brüche gesagt, jetzt will ich die Zeilen am Maße. Amul sind gewesen zwei Schwestern, Rechele und Sürle, welche haben sich keinmal nicht gekriegt. Sie haben sich sehr lieb gehabt und haben allemal sich gespielt in einem. Einmal haben sie gesehen, wie zwei Kinder kriegen sich über Spielerei. Eine schreit, das ist mein, ich will das haben. Und die zweite schreit, nein, das ist mein, ich will das haben. Okay, so all the children sat down quietly with glowing faces and they took out their pencils, their Bleien. I don't know who still uses Bleien for pencils. Nowadays, everyone says pencils. They took out their Bleien and together they worked on their free time um, activity. When they were done, mock teacher Bracha said, now I will tell you a story. And this is interesting because storytelling as a tool for, let me move this, storytelling as a tool for moralizing, for handling issues, interpersonal issues, is very important in this culture and context. So, little Bracha, who's not yet an adult, is utilizing the art of storytelling to try to address the rift between Tila and Toba, assuming. I haven't gotten so far in the story, but that's what I'm assuming is happening. And teacher Bracha tells a story of two sisters, Rechela and Surla, who never fight. They never fight. But one day they saw two children fight, and the children were fighting over something. In the illustration, they're fighting over the game Steig Hecher, which means grow higher, and it is a knockoff of the game Candyland. So these two children are fighting, and one says, it is mine, and the other says, no, it is mine. So we are now 3 layers deep into story. There is Tila and Toba fighting, and then there is Surla and Rechla never fighting, but then there are two unnamed children who are fighting. Let's see what happens. Very suspenseful. Wenn Rechele in Sörle haben gesehen, wie sie kriegen sich, sind sie schnell zugelaufen und Rechele hat gesagt, du hat hier Inselspielerei in Herz sich aufzukriegen. Ein jiddische Kind tut sich kein nicht kriegen. Die zwei Schwestern haben sich sehr verschämt und sie haben sich übergebeten. Sie haben zurückgegeben Recheles Spielerei und sich wieder Schein gespielt zusammen. So, what happens? These two great sisters that never fight saw the fighting, ran over to the fighting girls, and said, take our game, stop fighting. Jewish children are never allowed to fight. And this caused the two sisters who were fighting to get very embarrassed that they were fighting. And they quickly mended their ways. They asked each other for forgiveness. They even returned the game to Rechela and Surela, and they no longer fought and now played nicely together. Now we are back to our summer camp, mock school. Tila, welche hat von Tila, welche hat Finderwartens alles zugehört, hat anerkannt ihr Fehler und sie hat sich schnell übergebeten mit Tobin. A scheinem Dank für deine Aufmerksamkeit, hat sie dann noch gesagt, verbrochen die Lehrerin. A jedes Kind tut sich Tage nicht kriegen, und mit dem Sitzen in einem allein habe ich keinem Gunisch aufgetan, nur mir allein. So Tila, who's from a distance, was listening in to the story, and she understood her mistake, and she quickly asked Toby for forgiveness. And then she went up to older girl Bracha, who was acting so grown up, and she said, thank you for making me aware and for your awareness. And she says, a Jewish child indeed is never allowed to fight. And by sitting by myself, einsam, I didn't read it correctly, by sitting einsam, aligned, by sitting by myself, I have not accomplished anything except to punish myself. The end of the story. This is very interesting. It again teaches tremendous interpersonal skills in a way that we might say borders on repressive. Instead of hashing things out, there was a lot of containment, a lot of restraint. I feel I was trained a lot in this. I see it as more like a pastime, also a specific culture, a European culture. I had the pleasure of meeting nuns the past Sunday. There's a convent in Williamsburg on U Street, and I was introduced to the three sisters who work there, and I went to see them at the convent. It was a really fascinating experience, and they were wearing off-white dresses, and the nun's headdress with a bright white strip over here, and special stockings that were like a whitish beige and very simple black shoes. And they served us tea and kosher cookies. They served what we call bush cookies, but are spritz cookies that you spritz out of a little contraption, and it takes the shape and it bakes in that shape. They had bought at the nearby kosher grocery store those cookies, and they served me that, as well as some kind of compote, or it was cut up apples, I think, in a cream. And the entire thing was so restrained and so formal and so well refined and intimidating. I didn't know if I was saying the right things. And that kind of nunnish behavior is to me exemplified in these stories. Maybe that's offensive to use the term nunnish. But in any case, it's very feminine, a very female socialization, and it's very restrained, very contained, and it values conflict avoidance over conflict resolution, whatever issue was happening between Tila and Toba was not resolved, was not addressed, was not hashed out. It was rather suppressed. And I happen to think that there is benefit to suppression. I happen to think there is a really sweet spot between creating drama and repression, and that sweet spot involves knowing when to pull from either side. And reality show levels of dramatization of life, of everything becoming a fight, of everything being emotion you pull forth, is not actually cleansing, it's creating negativity. And I think there is benefits to this approach: letting go, resolving, minimizing conflict. But I don't think it works always, and I think you have to find the sweet spot. In my own life, I had to grow into my anger, I had to grow into my ability to work through negativity, because I would so want to revert or resort to this kind of like let it all go away and no fighting, Jewish children don't fight. So I think I'm really interested in different methods of coping and how we learn them and teach them to children. And I think this book in particular is teaching an extreme version of resolving things by almost ignoring them. And I think it has its benefits. I don't think it's all bad, but I also think it's limited. And I think there's good reason why in the Hasidic community these are now outdated. Now we have the questions, Fragen. Was ist Tila nicht gesessen beim Tisch? Zwei, was haben die zwei Schwestern getan, wo sie haben gesehen, wenn sie haben gesehen, wie man kriegt sich. Drei, kriege ich mich einmal mit meiner Schwester. Vier, was tue ich, wenn ich sehe, als andere kriegen sich. Okay, so it's essentially, why didn't Tila sit at the table? What did the two sisters do when they saw other children fight? Do I ever fight with my sister? And what do I do when I see others fight? So this is not only about learning how to handle fights, but also not only about how to yourself not fight, but also how to intervene when others are fighting. It's encouraging the children step in. Okay, let's read one more story. Die lächerige Stremp. Reisi, hat Cyrilla sich umgeriefen, haltendigen mitten und in ihr Stremp. Was ist geschehen, hat Reisi die größere Schwester gefragt. Mein Stremp hat ein Loch, hat Cyrilla sich beklagt. Reisi kickt es an und sagt, Tiers nicht so, weil der Loch wird größer werden. Ich will das dir schön ziehen. Reisela hat mit ihrer flinken Hand zugenäht dem Stremp. Cyrilla hat bis ein paar Minuten gekannt unten a ganzen Stremp und hat sich sehr bedankt für ihre Schwester. Another mini story. Nie, jetzt wollen wir sehen. Okay, let me translate it. Raisi, Cyrilla said when she was in the middle of putting on her socks. So Cyrilla answers, no, so Raisi answers, what happened? And Raisi is the older sister. So Cyrilla says, my socks have a hole. So Raisi looked at it, she investigated and said, don't put it on, because if you put it on, the hole will just get bigger and bigger. I will sew it up for you. So Raisela, with her quick hands, quickly mended the sock. Cyrilla was able in a few seconds, in a few minutes, to put it on, and she was very grateful to her sister. So we're seeing something that to me is interesting here is they're mending the socks. I think nowadays it would just go to the trash. Socks are produced for so much less money. They're so much cheaper to produce, and also they're um, they're very thin nowadays. So I think no one would be mending them anymore like this. You can see needle and the thread and the little finger protector. My father actually had a sock factory. It was called Goodyear Hosiery. And socks were a different story back in the day. I remember my father's sock factory was first in the city, and then I remember it outside of Monroe. The building that was in was like an abandoned warehouse in nothing town nowadays. It's, I think, a yeshiva, and that whole area is developed. But anyway, socks were a very different story. Now they're produced super cheaply and largely overseas. So I think no one is mending socks. But again, you see older sisters acting in a very responsible fashion, and older sibling role stepping in and admired for their quick problem solving and helpfulness, and younger siblings being super grateful. Okay, now, children, um, we will see who listened really nicely to the story. Nie jetzt wollen wir sehen, kinderlich, wer hat gut ausgehört die scheine Masse. 1. Wer kann mir sagen, was für ein Problem hat Cyrilla gehabt? Who can tell me what problem did Cyrilla have? 2. Wie also hat Reisi für ihr geholfen? How did Reisi help her? And 3. Mit was habe ich schon geholfen, a kleinere Schwester? 3. How did I help a younger sister? So again, teaching these young girls to help their younger siblings. So the question is, how did I help my younger sibling? Okay, that's it for today's reading. Please leave detailed comments of reflections. I will be sharing them before I start the next reading. I hope you're all well. I enjoy reading your comments. I enjoy being in touch with you all. I hope the winter is going well for all of you. I wonder what you're all up to. My mother is doing much better. So grateful. It's been super cold, and I'm chugging along. I'm not going anywhere warm. Just wearing my ridiculous hat that looks ridiculous but keeps me warm, and being out and about. And I'm gonna head out to the DMV now after this. So wishing you all well. Thanks for watching. Zagazend. Bye bye.